spending tax dollars to teach kids that America is a rotten place is absolutely unacceptable.
The Republican fight against critical race theory has reached a fever pitch across the country. Legislators in 20 states have introduced bills to restrict critical race theory, regulating how individual teachers can discuss racism, sexism, and issues of equity in K through 12 classrooms.
So Republicans are fanning the flames of a new culture war, claiming the teaching of critical race theory is a threat to our kids and to community relations. But this isn't just some abstract argument. They're actually pushing through legislation in state after state as we speak. Legislation aimed at making sure it can't be talked about in schools, which isn't just dumb because critical race theory isn't taught in schools to begin with. It's taught to law students in university. But it's also a complete violation of the First Amendment from a party that claims to be all about free speech.
In the midst of another year of record-breaking heat, a COVID economy creaking on the hinges, growing inflation, a looming eviction crisis, COVID cases spiking out of control in Republican strongholds, and a crumbling status on the world stage, Republicans are choosing to focus on pretending like racism is nothing but a figment of the liberal imagination.
The critical race theory is the study of law and how it has been part of the infrastructure from slavery to emancipation to segregation to today, upon which racial inequalities have been based.
Medical professionals and law professors and military leaders and politicians and cable news hosts have identified a new disorder they claim explains everything bad. It's called whiteness. In universities, it has become an article of faith that were it not for the indelible stain of whiteness, America could be a utopia. Only whiteness stands in the way.
And the CRT agenda is a version of the same thing. It says, why can't we talk about problematizing whiteness? Who are you to object to that, you bigot?
Republican obsession with critical race theory is just a reflection of white America's long-standing obsession with racism itself. Republicans fear that teaching the realities of this nation's history and the institutional racist power structures which continue to hold it up to this day is actually what creates the racism. You see, it's the awareness and not the reality itself which creates the problem. But then again, by that same logic, when you get sick, you should just ignore it because you see, it's the awareness and not the disease which creates the illness in the first place. A brief lesson in history will reveal that some of the most horrific versions of chattel slavery this world has ever seen lasted for 246 years in the United States. Now keep in mind, slavery has only been abolished for 156 years here. Reconstruction was a sabotage failure, with every advancement of African Americans halted by fearful whites. Land which was promised to former slaves was denied, which gave rise to sharecropping. The Civil Rights Bill of 1866 was passed, and eventually there were 2,000 elected black officials. But white Southerners couldn't handle the rising black power. Thus was formed the KKK in 1866, and most of the violence directed at African Americans during this time was politically motivated to terrorize blacks and more liberal Southerners from exercising their rights within society. After the economic crash of 1873, white liberals in the North simply grew tired of paying for Reconstruction efforts when faced with tight pockets, and thus the Jim Crow era began shortly after 1876, which made it legal to publicly terrorize blacks and segregate them from all meaningful access to opportunity in the public commons. Redlining blocked African Americans from owning any meaningful or valuable property, and after hundreds of years of being denied access to economic opportunity, law enforcement continues to target minority communities where crime is higher due of lack to that access. Despite African Americans only making up 12% of the population, black men are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than white men. Black people are also 3.6 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than whites, even though we all smoke it in equal amounts. And blacks also make up 38% of the incarcerated population, despite being, again, only 12% of the total population. As Republicans endlessly pretend like racism doesn't exist, we see further example of it being a worldwide issue in Cornel West's resignation letter from Harvard, where he highlights racism and corruption as an innate flaw of the human existence, our tendency to give far too much power to our fears and not nearly enough to our curiosity. Israel's political influence extends even into the American Ivy League institutions, such that Harvard's political prejudices and hostility to the Palestinian cause stood in the way of Dr. West's career path.
What's become abundantly clear at this point is that the Republican Party does not exist in reality and that they're thoroughly unserious. However, they do know how to gain and maintain power, and we have to do everything we can to ensure that they don't get it back in 2022 or in 2024.